Hey guys, this week I'm going to be talking about studying. I hope over the course of this video to build a comprehensive picture of how to improve at the game and become the most competitive player you can be regardless of the amount of time that you have. My name is Alderman. I'm a performance coach. Let's dive right in. All right guys, my hope for this video is to give a very simple, comprehensive picture of study. There are so many tools, so much information, so much knowledge and concepts being thrown around constantly that it is so difficult to just have a streamlined approach to improving and becoming the best you can. The beauty of what I'm going to lay out is no matter how much time or how much play or how serious a player you are, this approach to improvement will benefit you, I promise. So in my opinion, there are only two reasons we study. Reason number one is building structure. Reason number two, answering questions. I want you to imagine that I dropped you off in the woods somewhere. And when I left you there, I said, okay, in 1 week's time, I'm going to come back here and I want you to be able to lead me around this place and be my tour guide of this area. Well, one of the things you would need to do if you were to accomplish this task is start building some kind of structured way of viewing the landscape you're in, right? You would have landmarks, things you become familiar with, and you would maybe build some kind of map or some kind of conceptual representation of the space so that when you are in one place, you can with confidence say you're not somewhere else. And when you're over there, you know you're not in the place you were just in. The interesting thing about how thoughts and concepts work is it's literally like navigating physical space. When you are expanding your knowledge or your skill in an area, your brain is literally trying to navigate a mental landscape. It's trying to understand what is the space my mind is navigating in? And this makes a lot of sense, right? If I give you a concept or an idea that is just way beyond you in the level of skill that you're at, your ability to use that to make any sense of the game that you're playing is very limited because you just don't have a map of the game that covers that concept. It can't be integrated in. It'd be like if I dropped you in a random place and I just pointed out 3 trees and I was like, hey, those are this place. And when you're here, you need to do this thing. But you're not familiar with this place at all. Those 3 trees look like any other 3 trees to you. They don't look unique. You have no idea how to find those trees again. I take you somewhere else. I say, go find those trees. You have no idea where they are. And you see this all the time in poker. You see people introducing concepts and structured ideas and trying to give them to people for which it is just not appropriate for them to be learning that. And then people while playing are trying to integrate these ideas that are just far beyond their current conceptual map of the game. So no matter where you're at, the first step to being able to improve is to be able to have a structured layout of the game as you know it. So if you're very new to the game, this can be extremely simple. It can be something like when I'm in position and Big Blind has called me, I'm going to c-bet small on every single board on every single texture. Now, you might have some higher level players say this is a terrible way to play the game. And in the long term, it is. But where you're at, it might be the perfect place to play the game because your conceptual map is so limited that you need very simple structure to even be able to begin to navigate this new space. Now, as you move up, more complex structures might suit you. So for example, I can show you guys something. I'm going to put a screenshot of something that I have here, but I have a spreadsheet that has my conceptual map reduced down to simple bet sizes across multiple different board textures with different notes on each board texture. Credit to Kevin Rabichow. This is his spreadsheet that he gave to me. But many of the things that I'm taking note on here and the simplifications that I'm making would actually seem quite complex to players who don't have the level of experience or knowledge in the game that I do. The point is not to approach structure in a specific way. It's to approach it in the way that you need to. You cannot build a more complex map of a space than you are familiar with that space. And this is going to be the feedback loop that I'm constantly referring to throughout this video, but structure helps you explore, and exploring should help you build structure. That is really the feedback loop that we're trying to build. We're trying to build structure that says, okay, I understand where I am in my map of this game, and then we're trying to use that structure to explore the unfamiliar areas. One of the fallbacks that you see many players fall into is they build good structure, but they never expand. They never explore other areas. They just have their structure and then they sit down and they just perform that structure over and over and over and over again. That will not make you improve. So that's building structure. The second way that we study is we answer questions. Before I get into this, I need to have a note on how it is we should play. Building a structure and a map of the territory does not mean that's how we play. Our map of the territory is to give us conceivable ground to stand on from which to depart and take chances. So let's take the simple example where I said I'm going to c-bet every flop 25%. This does not mean, just because this is my structured way of approaching the game, this does not mean I must c-bet every board 25%. Quite the opposite. It means I have this norm to fall back on. This is my structured approach of viewing the game. But when I play, and then suddenly it's like, c-betting 25% here doesn't really seem to accomplish anything, given my experience of the game is serving me some intuition that says, this might not be right. Let's say we have queens on a board like King 8-2, and we have this instinct of like, I don't really want to bet queens here. So we check. What matters is that we departed from our structure, and that served us up a question of, is this departure good? And what matters is that we make a departure for particular reasons. So let's say, for example, I have a spot like queens. It doesn't really matter the preflop action or anything. What matters is just I say, I have this instinct that betting queens doesn't benefit me. Maybe it's just there's a lot of king X and I don't expect to get called by worse very much. Simple as that. Well, then we check. Maybe now we can go into a solver with this question in our mind of, is this strategically true? Right? And there's two ways to investigate this question. We can investigate it. Are our presumptions true? Which is there's too much king X and below us doesn't call. And we can kind of investigate that presumption. Or we can investigate if our presumptions are true. Was my strategic adjustment correct? So how much below king X do people need to be calling in order to make betting queens good? And by having these questions, we get information. And then from that information, we want to build new structures, new ideas around how we play the game. And then from that new structure, we want to ask more questions. And this is really important because this other thing that I think is really underrated in poker is the value of good questions. When in game, we're not looking for answers. We're looking for questions. Answers come later. If you're playing and you're saying, what should I do here? And you're just looking for an answer, you're always going to reference your structure, whatever that is. When you answer your structure, you're never exploring new territories. If there was one thing I wanted you to take back from this, it would be that while playing, answers are overrated. Questions are the real value. One of the things that I think holds players back the most is that they don't set themselves up to learn the maximum when studying because they're playing in such a way that doesn't ask deep, interesting questions. If you have a hard time asking interesting or finding the questions to ask, the answer is probably you don't have a good enough structure from which to depart to find good questions. So to wrap up, we build structure, we ask questions, we get answers, that reinforces our structure. And we just keep doing that cycle over and over and over again. There's a lot more I could say on this matter, but hopefully I just provoked a lot of thoughts on how you're approaching studying and how you could improve that process. One thing I will say is I'm about to start launching memberships on my YouTube channel. And one of the things that's going to come along with that membership is I'm going to do study-based streams where we answer questions and get into the nitty-gritty of different ideas. And those will be available only to people who are members on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'm Jared Alderman.